Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to Cherry and Timber
I thought
Talk.
I thought you might say Came Cho.
Game show. I'm, I'm really, really excited today. I mean, the first ever test match at the new Narendra Modi Stadium, and the third test match. We are going to discuss the fourth day today, and I'm so excited. Uh, Subhash, what should be India's strategy? Should they go for Khaman Dokla or should they go for Pafda, or what should be the dinner meal today?
Uh, I am at a complete loss of words. I had booked my ticket the fourth day, like
Yeah.
any cricket fan, because I thought maybe the fifth day, the test match would not roll on, at least for the fifth day. But yes,
Yeah.
I got at least 2 days. The entertainment, well, I won't complain, to be honest. It was extremely entertaining cricket. Uh,
Yes.
Sometimes there are matches like this where the bowler has the first and the last laugh. I mean,
Yes.
it's just those bizarre games.
Yes, I can see from the photos that you shared with us. This is the ticket that you shared with us, and these are some of the stadium photographs that you shared. I definitely can, feel the excitement which you had in the stadium. I mean, honestly, watching it on TV was surreal as well, and I'm sure you being there would have been something else, right? Some other experience.
Absolutely. It was so there was. I mean, I visited various stadiums in India, but the first time that you enter it, there is a feeling of awe. Like you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never visited the MCG, although I
Yeah.
had plans to go for the final. Unfortunately, due to COVID, all those plans were scrapped. But there is a feeling of awe. Your jaws drop when you enter it for the first time.
Why
It's
don't we
huge.
see it, man? I think you shared the video with us. Why don't we just quickly play it?
Yes,
So
yes.
guys, as you can see, this is the entrance to the famous Motera Stadium on the first day of the test match. Here I am with a few. This is what the structure looks like, and this is in Gujarati, where Maru Ahmedabad, Swachh Ahmedabad. So there is obviously a call to keep it clean and nice. Here there are some photos being clicked by people. The excitement is quite high, and more on this in a while.
Excellent, Bash. Lovely. Thanks for sharing that. Siddharth says, good to see Bash Mankad. Hey, Siddharth, good to see you too, man. Uh, I'm sure we would have wanted some more days of action, but unfortunately, it is what it is. So, Bash, just take us through your experience, man. How was it on the first day? What is your take on what you saw in terms of the cricket being played? Your take on the pitch? I'm sure that will be a huge debate in today's show. So, we'll start off with you.
So first, I would just like to sort of briefly speak to you about the atmosphere on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
There was something very refreshing that I noticed, that the fans that were there. I mean, every seat in the house was sold off, and despite their England, batting first, the general chatter is that the tempo
Yeah.
goes down. When
Yeah.
ordinarily in a test match when you're back, but however, from ball one, the crowd was really really excited, and I saw a lot of female fans also. It was like a family. We've
Mm.
all had tough times in the last 1 year,
Yeah.
so that was great to see. And
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, I don't think England have a reason to complain for primarily two reasons. First of all, they batted first. I mean, they got the best first couple of hours of the pitch, which behaved truly. If you see Crawley, the way he batted, he was
Yes.
batting beautifully. He was middling
Yeah.
practically everything.
Yeah.
It's just that after, I think, about when they were 78 for 2 and Stokes and Root were going pretty well, there was just a collapse. And
Hmm.
then it was just a procession. And
Yeah.
I think it also could do with the crowd, the noise. I mean, at least with the
Hmm.
with this rotation policy, which I'm not a great fan of, to
Yeah.
England. There were some players of theirs like Bairstow, who's their best player of spin, who was
Hmm.
completely lost. I mean, he tried
Yeah.
to
Yes.
sweep. He tried to attack from ball one. This is not a
Yeah.
pitch where
Yeah.
Rohit showed us that if you were good initially with your defense, if you were solid, there were
Yeah.
runs to score. So
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of a lot of stories intertwined in the the whole 2 day match, which we
Yeah.
could talk about. So there was
Yeah.
not just one factor that
Yeah.
Yeah.
contributed to England's loss. That's what I feel.
Interesting. Yes, I kind of agree with you. I mean, if you ask my opinion, Bhash, on the pitch, I wouldn't say it was a bad wicket. It's just that I had one thing that, it could have been slightly better in terms of not being so dry. That was the only complaint that, on day one, we were seeing a lot of dust flying. That was my only
Yeah, but
thing that, for day one, it might be slightly too much. But
Venu,
yeah,
I
yeah,
I just feel
yeah,
one thing on that. I mean,
yeah.
it's a pitch in a dry state. What do you expect?
Yeah. I think, yeah, they were living true to their brand name. Yeah, I think apart from that, if you see, right, there was nothing to complain about. No balls keeping low, no balls shooting off a length, no balls. I mean, agreed, there was turn for sure. That I won't deny. But somewhere, Mahesh, I think my gut feel is that if this was a red ball instead of a pink ball, it would have behaved differently because the extra lacquer and the shine probably made that skid through. Don't you feel that?
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about that. And what Bash said very interestingly, the first hour or first session, in fact, of this play, the English batsmen were going pretty well. The
Hmm.
moment the ball started to turn,
Yeah.
they lost their mind in the dressing room. It's not that the pitch was not behaving that bad that they played that kind of shots. I mean, they tried to, and they were not sure how to play on that kind of a wicket. It could
Hmm.
be lack of experience. I don't know how many of them come before to India today. See, just like we say that a batsman's education is complete when he goes to Australia, England, and South Africa, one
Yep.
part of it gets completed when they come to India. And you need
Well
to
Correct.
said.
play spin bowling. Spin bowling is a variety where you need to actually play well. You need to use footwork. Remember, when you play pace bowling, you don't need to use that much of footwork as much as you need to use for spinner. That's what I think Sunil
Exactly.
Gavaskar also very rightly said. That to
Hmm.
play spin, you need skill. You need
Yep.
technique, you
Yes.
skill, you need footwork. People just think that, oh, of course, if you play in Australia back and across and square cut or pull, you are a good batsman. Again,
Hmm.
spin bowling is not that at all. And I think
Yep.
England actually lost the plot in the dressing room itself. They saw a couple of balls
Hmm.
turn and they started doubting that they'll be able to play or not. Because they would have thought what happened in Chennai in the second test match, that is going to happen.
Yep.
And if you look at the second innings, they in fact capitulated. Like, I mean, I know the pitch was very dry. It should not have been that dry. I agree to it
Yeah.
on day one and day two.
Yep.
But having said that, you look at Rohit
Yep.
Sharma. He played
Yep.
well. He played,
Yep.
I mean, like what Bhash said, they got the best use of the wicket. Yet scored only
Yep.
112 runs. I
Yep.
mean, there
Yep.
was nobody in the English team that was able to stand his ground and score runs.
Correct.
Whereas
Correct.
look at Rohit Sharma, he scored 66, and the second innings he was not out, whatever. I mean, okay,
Yep.
the second innings we won't talk too much because when you need 49 runs to win, I mean it's a
Yep.
foregone conclusion. But he
Yep.
played. I think he was the only batsman from both the sides who knew how to play on that wicket. I agree,
Yep.
you need a little bit of luck on that wicket. Like I mean,
Yep.
I mean, you need to play strokes when it is required, but you need to play calculated shots. I think Rohit Sharma knew how to play on that wicket, and that's the reason
Hmm.
why I think the difference was Rohit Sharma.
Hmm. Interesting. And I think, Yogi, one more interesting point which came out of this test match is that, all the non-turning balls which went straight, they were the ones which
Thank you
were
very
getting
much.
right. So that
Thank you
shows
very much. So I think
exactly that shows that it wasn't the ones prodigiously turning and bouncing that were causing problems.
okay, now let's. I think this is what we need to sort of elaborate on a bit more. And this is where I think the bigger devil was in the mind than was in the pitch. So I think what was happening there was people were getting out to straight balls, expecting every ball to turn. Now, when every ball is not turning, right? I think then what you need to do is you just need to watch the ball as closely as you can, and
Yep.
then play through the line as much as possible, right?
Yep.
And let the one that's turning turn, because that's now going to beat the bat by quite some distance, right?
Exactly.
So what batsmen were trying to do is expecting every ball to turn prodigiously, and that meant that the balls which were harmless were going
Yeah.
on and hitting the stump. And
Or the
the
pads.
prime example of this is actually
Yeah.
Bairstow, the way he got out in the second innings, right?
Correct.
When
Correct.
he tried to sweep the first ball that he was playing, the ball that was flighted and pitched up, crime number one. Now he gets away thanks to the height to the ball, because I think it's a new ball, so it was going to bounce a bit more, missed by a bit. Good. He does the same thing the second ball. Now, if you do this, this is committing harakiri. You can't really say this is pitch to blame. What you've
Yeah.
got to blame there is uncertainty in your mind. And what seems to have happened is there's a bit of a fear that's running through that lineup right now.
Mm.
And there seems to be the only one man in that team who seems to have any bit of idea in terms of how to counter this threat.
Yep.
Everybody else, it seems, is playing the fear instead of playing the ball. If they were playing
Mm.
the ball more, I don't think they would have succumbed this much. Now,
Yep.
counter argument would be India went through something similar in their
Mm.
first innings.
Mm.
Okay, now imagine if England had got 300 runs or so, it's
Yep.
likely that Indians would have been a bit more switched on than
Mm.
what they were.
Yep.
Sometimes what happens is, you see one team batting, and there's a bit of a cascade effect in terms of emotions and what runs through the side, right? And that could lead to the other side responding with similar sort of caution, or playing similar tentative cricket, right?
Yep.
Now, if England were a bit more assertive, if we'd seen 300 plus, right, it's very likely India would have matched that or scored more than that, right? Now,
Yep.
I heard Mahesh saying it was 47 runs, it was a foregone conclusion, all of that. Even in that second inning, when India came into bat, right, ball was turning. It's not that it wasn't. But
Yep.
what we saw there was they were prepared to play the line and
Yep.
and go to the pitch of the ball, right?
Correct.
And you will see most batsmen who got out were either playing back, regretfully back.
Yep.
And this wasn't the pitch where you had to go all the way back all the time. If you
Mm.
played on the front, you had a better chance of surviving, you had a better chance of middling, all of that.
Correct. And I think most of the time, like, both Mahesh as well as Bash mentioned, and you also mentioned, right? Most of the time, for example, for Akshar Patel, right? They were playing for the turn and outside the line
Yeah,
of the ball, right? Rather play inside the line of the ball and play for the
yeah,
straighter one, let the turning ball go away, right? And that was a
yeah,
classic case study with Steve Smith, with Kevin Peterson, with Alistair Cook, the way they played in Pune 2017, Mumbai 2012, right? So those were classic examples that you can survive and score runs if you apply, right? If you apply yourself.
yes,
And
yes,
I've seen poor pitches in India. Honestly, I'll not be I'll be very honest about it. 2004 Mumbai, 2012 Mumbai, and maybe 2008 Kanpur as well against South Africa,
yes.
and 2017 Pune. But this wasn't as close, nearly even close to that those ones, right? I mean, those were really poor pitches, right, Bash?
And I think
Yeah,
just one
Yeah,
thing I'd
yeah,
squeeze in, and I said this last week also.
yeah,
It's the body language that is getting England down. When Ben Stokes got out in the last test match and the reaction that he gave, right?
yeah.
This is what's affecting that England lineup now. So I think
Mm,
more than the pitches, they're carrying that fear of the pitches into every inning they're playing. And that's kind of, pulling them back. But over to Bhash.
mm,
yeah. So no, just a couple of quick points because I was at the stadium. What I felt is that if you have the skill to play, I think like Ashwin and Akshar, I mean, we need to give credit where due that they just bowled brilliantly. I mean,
absolutely.
the balls to Ollie Pope. I mean, the two balls that he it could have been on any wicket. It could have been
Oh
any wicket. Could have
yes.
been Scott. It could have been Lords. He
Mm,
just. I think we need to compliment players for their skills. I mean, Rohit
Yes.
Sharma. Although
yeah.
I will confess that I am a huge fan of him, and I can't be objective in assessment of Rohit Sharma when I watch him play. But I think that's also to do with the skill. On a more serious, when
Yeah.
Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli were batting, that
Yeah.
we were cruising along until the last over when Kohli just tried a cute
Yeah. Square cut or something, right? Yeah. Oops, I think we lost him. Okay, till we get him back, I think fair point there, Mahesh, and I think that was one thing which I definitely wanted to talk about. The skill that Ashwin showed in getting Oli Pop in both the innings, right? I mean, you don't need the pitch to assist you to do that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the pure skill and the pure, cleverness with which he got him out, And I think I heard Graham Swan on air, and I actually tweeted to him as well, asking him whether that was the pitch or whether that was the skill of Ashwin which really got him. And he was criticizing Oli Pop and telling him that, he wasn't getting to the pitch of the ball. He wasn't, he was trying to come down the wicket and plug the ball and, come to the pitch of the ball. But then he tried that the first ball. Ashwin saw him coming down the wicket. then he kind of, flattened the curve and, bowled it slightly quicker and got that drift, right? How do you
Yeah.
counter that? You cannot counter that. And the pitch has nothing to do with that. It's pure skill, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And cricket is such a confidence game, If you're very confident, you will deliver. Right now,
Yep.
Ashwin is extremely confident. Look at
Yep.
his performance from Australia. Maybe from
Yep.
Melbourne onwards, he's performing
Yep.
both with the bat as well as the ball. You saw it in
Correct.
Melbourne, so he scored runs in trying conditions. Last match, he scored a century in Chennai. So the thing is that now he's very confident, and because of his batting, his
Yep.
bowling has improved, and because of his bowling, his batting improved. They complement each other so well. So
Correct.
going forward, you could see Ashwin being the recurrent chief for England even in the next match, because he knows
Yeah.
exactly how much to turn. See, when you turn a mile, it looks beautiful on television. You see the ball turning right across the face of the bat. It doesn't get you wickets. You need a turn only that much. That is when you get
Yep.
the wicket. That is when you induce the edge. And that is what
Yep.
Ashwin has been able to do it beautifully. And his balls. You look at his performance. I mean, his variety, his variation. He has been criticized in the past for trying too many things in one over. I think he's realized that he doesn't have to try that hard. His skill is unmatchable as of today. And if he's reached 400 wickets, I wouldn't be surprised if he picks up to 600 wickets without any problem.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it correctly. That the turn is just to create that fear and doubt in the mind.
Yeah.
It's the actual
It
ball.
looks good on television, doesn't it?
Exactly.
When the ball turns right across the face of the bat,
Yeah.
you feel
Yep.
very happy about it, but doesn't get you a wicket. At the end of the day,
Exactly.
the objective is to
Exactly.
get you a wicket. You need to turn only that much to just
Yep.
use the edge, and you get caught. You
Exactly.
beat the batsman. He's ready. He's ready to
Yep.
get beaten the full day because he's not going to
Yep.
get out. But when you
Yep.
earn that much, that's when. And I read somewhere, it's like, I think even you all also said the same thing. It's a straighter ball on a turning wicket. It's not the turning ball that gets you a wicket. It's the straighter ones that get you the wicket.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, I had the great pleasure of being with one really interesting biomechanics expert and spin bowling coach from Australia. And he was telling me, I'm showing you the ball. The spinners who get the most wickets are not the ones who turn it big, like you said, Mahesh.
Correct.
And he was showing us the seam position, the wrist position, in terms of how you can change the angle, just that slightly more or slightly less to impart that much turn or that
Yes.
less turn, right? And that is what is more dangerous. And that is why you see guys like Shane Warne, Anil Kumble, Harbhajan Singh, Muralidharan. Why do they have so many wickets? Not because they turn the ball a big way, right? Because they know how much to turn and where to pitch the ball and when to put in that variation, right? That's the whole key. And that is something which Ashwin does beautifully. And that was evident in the way he got Oli Pope. Like, Bash, you probably missed out on that point, which you were discussing.
So even I believe, if Jasprit Bumrah, although we didn't try him, in the same distance the ball was zipping, had Jasprit Bumrah bowled on this pitch also, I think he could have also, with the tail enders, I thought that Kohli might just, although Washington Sundar would feel hard done because, he didn't get bowled. It was just a bizarre match. I mean, there was no logic or, rationale to sort of, say just a bizarre match.
But man, we envy you, man. You saw this in this beautiful stadium. Plus, you were witness to what we can, definitely not go, without talking about is the 400 wickets for Ravichandran Ashwin.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who would have imagined when he had toured Australia, we were looking at Nathan Lyon getting to 400 from the 390s, and now he is sitting at 400 within the space of next 2 or 3 test matches, from 360 odd. Imagine.
Absolutely. I think, for in Test cricket, I think he's by far our best player at the moment, whether it be batsman or most. I think with now, after the Sydney Test, he's got his batting mojo back. I think he's probably realized that with Jadeja's form, coupled with the fielding that, Jadeja provides as a complete package, I think he had to sort of get his batting mojo back, and I can't be happier for him. I mean,
Absolutely.
I also feel, this may be a slightly controversial opinion, but I also feel that we don't utilize him in T20 cricket as much as we should have. Because, if you see him bowl in the power play for Delhi Capitals, I think he's a very smart bowler. I think the fact that I understand that in one-day cricket, it will be difficult for him to come back, but I think you could seriously consider him, at least with the T20 World Cup in India. I
Yep.
think in T20 cricket, we could give him a chance. I genuinely feel that he's that good. I mean, he's a thinking bowler, and I genuinely feel that he should be given
Absolutely,
a chance. I don't
man.
know
I
what you
mean,
guys think, but
yeah, I completely agree. And, one of the rare bowlers to cause a threat to both the batsman and the non-striker at the same time. Anyway, that was on a lighter note. so Yogi, coming back to Akshar Patel now, man, he must be thinking, like a lot of the experts have already said, Test cricket is easy, man. Just roll your arm over and get wickets.
Look, I think Kohli said it in the press conference, right? He was saying that is the height from which he delivers. And
Yeah.
I think just like Jadeja, he's able to keep it stump to stump. So a bit more flight, stump to stump, and on the pitches which are going to assist a turn, right?
Yeah.
These people who can hit the pads quite consistently and stumps quite consistently are
Yeah.
always going to be a threat. So I think he's found the going easy because he's found the right pitches and
Yeah.
right conditions to sort of prosper in just as he comes in into the squad. Now
Yeah.
let's also not undermine the fact that somebody like Akshar Patel has been playing
A
at
lot
the
of
highest
domestic
level
cricket.
quite a
Yep.
bit, with
Yep.
with IPL and all of that. So these guys come in quite matured, right? So
Yep.
they're not they don't come as raw as we think they would.
Yeah.
So there's a sense of confidence when they're coming in. They know what their role is, and he's played his role quite beautifully. When you've got Ashwin on the other side, the senior spinner,
Yeah.
then to get more wickets than Ashwin actually speaks volumes about him. Also,
Absolutely.
I think it has helped that he's played at Chennai and now at the home ground. So a couple of good
Yes.
test matches. He's done well.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think he's probably also thinking of getting some runs with the bat in the next test match.
Oh yes, I think definitely a really good batsman as well. I'm thinking that's one part of him which we haven't seen in these test matches for sure. Yeah, and I think again, coming back to that spin thing, right? So Ashwin has it differently, right? He does
Yes,
this, more often, the
yes,
angle thing. Whereas Akshar is more about the flattened, undercutting thing, right? So the ball kind of goes like a flying saucer, like that, and
yeah,
that's why it skids, right? Because it hits the glossy part of the ball and kind of goes
correct,
straight through. And one of the balls, he, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, he might have a kind of slightly angled seam, and that might turn. So that's the threat
correct.
which he possesses, right? So I think one more thing is, I mean, we definitely have criticized England, but I think it's also there to acknowledge, Mahesh, that how difficult it is to face these guys of such
Good
high
skill,
quality
good skill.
spin, right? Of such skill, because it's not just that you're watching the wrist, the finger, but you're also watching the seam, you're watching the angle, you're watching where it's pitching. Sometimes it dips on you, and there's so much to contend with, right? Spin bowling is an art.
It's an absolute art, no doubt about that. And the reason
Yeah,
why Akshar was so successful was that he A had patience and B hit the basics right. He didn't try too hard. He was
correct.
told probably by the coaches just drop it at a point in the pitch, and the pitch will do the
Mm.
rest, because the pitch was turning certain times it will keep
Mm.
straight. So the variation was from the pitch itself. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah,
And that is what it was very commendable on Akshar's part, because he doesn't have experience at the highest level in Test cricket, but I think he's
yeah,
got a very shrewd mind. The
yeah,
cricketing mind was working beautifully, because all that he did was he didn't try to try too many things, because you can easily get carried away. You see the turning a mile, you then
Mm.
try to put in more revs on the ball and try to turn the ball
Yeah,
even more. He didn't do that.
yeah,
He just
yeah.
stuck to his basics, just dropped it
Mm.
at a very good spot time and time again, and
Yeah,
allowed the pitch to do the rest. And like what he said, certain balls he would have allowed the ball to hit the seam. Certain times it would have
yeah,
allowed to hit the glossy part. So the variation happened by
yeah.
itself, and that's why he was so successful. I think he is a very good cricketer. I mean,
Correct.
make no mistake about it. He should have come into the Indian team a little earlier, but then we know how difficult it is to get into the Indian team. He just got in the Indian team because Ravindra Jadeja is not around. Because had Jadeja been
Mm.
around, let me tell you, he would have been more than a handful on this wicket.
Oh my God, I can't imagine with Jadeja being around. But I think that one very important point which you made, Mahesh, there is, at that level, it's one thing having a turning track or a seaming wicket, but, as a bowler at that level, it's so important to understand to be consistent, right? And I think that's one thing which came out of Ishant Sharma's interview when he was talking
Yes,
about that Perth spell against Ponting, right? And Sachin Tendulkar was at mid-on. and telling him consistently, don't do anything different. Don't do anything different. He cannot play you at that line. He will budge. His patience will be tested. And that is what Test cricket is all about, right? How long, who blinks first, right? That's the approach. I think that's something which is so commendable about Test cricket, right? You're saying something, Yogi. Yeah.
All I want to say on this is, what we've seen happen with spinners in T20 cricket, right? Wherein a lot of spinners have started bowling flat and they've become dart bowlers. So, people who can just aim at one spot and try and fire the ball in. What I like about test matches and what I like about pitches like this is it evens out the contest a bit more.
Correct.
Admittedly, batsmen find it difficult. That's fine. But then
Yep.
you also got to have a healthy mix of batsman and bowler surviving, thriving in different conditions. And
Yes.
what Test cricket allows to do is allows to prosper, allows that art of spin bowling to prosper a bit more. Wherein
Yes.
you see the magician being in control of his magic a bit more instead
Correct.
of being dictated by flat tracks which don't offer much to the bowler at all, and wherein
Mm.
the bowlers can sort of hit you through the line all the time. What am I going to actually enjoy watching? I
Yep.
also saw, I think probably the same day, there was a T20 game which produced 400 plus runs in space of 40 overs, right? Do I
Yep.
want to watch that slugfest, or do I want to watch a bit of a drama wherein the batsmen have to be at their absolute best to get whatever runs they can, and on the
Yep.
other side there are spinners who are trying to unfurl their magic. They're trying to be consistent, they're trying to mix it up, and all
Mm.
of that drama and theater happening. And I
Yep.
think that's why we also need this, while we need a little bit of that as well.
Mm. Agreed. And
I think
Bash, sorry, go ahead. You're saying
yeah.
something.
No, just one more thing. What I felt while at the stadium is the England innings. They
Mm.
were just, as you said, they had demons in their mind, and also the way they were batting, barring Stokes, there was
Yeah.
nobody who really wanted to score runs. The moment you
Mm.
take
Correct.
single, the
Yeah.
bowler also starts thinking. There was either it was a defensive shot, a
Yeah.
defensive prod, or
Yeah.
they just tried to sweep
Yes.
or
Slog
smash it
away.
out of
Yeah.
the ground. That's not how Test cricket
Yeah.
is played. To
Yeah.
try and at least there were enough gaps in the field. We had an aggressive field placement. There
Correct.
was barring I think deep mid wicket or some. There were only one or two fielders. If you try and take singles, it
Yep.
automatically you rotate the strike. That's only where Joe Root and Ben Stokes, who are arguably
Yep.
their two best batsmen, who looked
Yep.
still reasonably comfortable on that pitch. So I think it was a test
Correct.
of skill. If you're
Yep.
inadequate, you would be found out on this wicket. I
Yeah.
think it's a very
I
simple.
think great point there, Vash, because the importance of a single is so underrated in Test cricket, right? We always think about rotating strike in ODIs and T20s, but then why are you allowing the bowler to bowl 6 balls at you, right? That is
Yeah.
such an important point, right, Mahesh?
Absolutely, and that rightly said by Bash. Singles
Hmm.
were the order of the day, but I think for some strange reason, England did not think of doing that. If they would have
Yep.
continuously taken singles, which is a relatively easy thing to do, because on
Yep.
that wicket, trying to hit the ball out of the ground every time, that's a high risk shot. You
Yep.
perish any moment. So,
Yep.
but having said that, it did not make any sense for them to be too negative as well. They should have used their
Hmm.
feet. They should have played inside the line of the ball. I mean, there are
Yep.
various ways in which they should have played that entire innings. And it was very
Yep.
surprising that even Joe Root got out. I thought
Yeah.
Root, with the skill and with the form in which he's come into he should have scored much more runs. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, he did not. And the rest of the English team just seemed to be like a fish out of water. They just don't seem to be knowing what to do, right?
Hmm. I think if anybody had issues against the turning track, I think it was the Indian team against Joe Root. So I think the way he bowled, I mean, we all got wickets of straight balls, but he got the wickets of all the ones which turned and bounced.
But let me tell you,
Thank God.
Renu,
Yeah.
this match also shows that our batsmen also are not the
Yeah.
best players of spin bowling anymore. Okay,
Agreed. Agreed.
we still talk about Indians being great players of spin bowling. That was an era that gone by. You had Dravid,
Yeah.
Tendulkar, Ganguly, Lakshman. Those guys knew how to play spin bowling because most of them, I've not seen Tendulkar played a lot of domestic cricket. So he graduated into Test cricket very early on. But the rest of
Yeah.
them played a lot of domestic matches, and when you play a lot of Ranji Trophy and domestic matches, you play spin bowling quite a bit. These players, you look somebody like Hardik Pandya, you look like somebody like even Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, they don't play too much of domestic cricket because they don't have time to play domestic cricket. And because of that, the thing that they found voting against spinners is not great quality. I mean, if Leach can trouble you, if Joe Root can trouble you, doesn't say too much about your skill of batting against spin bowling.
Interesting. Yes.
Also,
So, Bhash,
I think, you know what, Joe Root, I mean, of course, you know, the figures when cricket is not just cold statistics. You know, the wickets that Joe Root took, I mean, a couple of them were like Akshar. I mean, I remember Akshar and Punch shot. They were just really trying to, I mean, he's a part-timer. So the instinct is to try and hit him either out of the attack or, you know, just aggressive. So although, you know, those who have not watched the match, the figures look phenomenally good. But frankly, it also helps, you know, when you're a part-timer and people want to attack you. I mean, the ball to Sundar, yes, that was a genuinely good ball, which is barring if you see Pant, Akshar, and Bumrah.
Ashwin, all of them were trying to attack.
It wasn't nothing to do with the pitch. You know, when you there's an argument. Joe Root, I think he mentioned in the press conference that the fact that I took 5 wickets, but you know, it's not that simple. It was because that, you know, they didn't think very highly of him, a Pant or an Akshar, and they wanted to attack him, for which he got wickets. Credit to him, but it wasn't anything to do with the wicket. You know, that's just one thing that I wanted to mention. Yeah, just
absolutely
good spin bowling. I mean, and Leach was not as threatening. At least he didn't look as threatening as our bowlers. So
I think even Leach as well, right? He also got maximum dismissals of the straight ball, just like Akshar or just like Ashwin, right? So I mean, it proves the point, right? That if you're willing to kind of, you know, put in that variation and, you know, kind of work on the batsman's psyche, you can get wickets there. I mean, as a spinner, right? So
the arm ball is very handy on that wicket.
I think England are too stuck in trying to play their best bowlers. Sometimes what you have to do is you have to respect the conditions. I mean, you could have tried a Dom Bess. Now, you know, Stewart brought Jofra Archer and Anderson on this wicket. I mean, it was a mistake. You have to admit it. I mean, it's like when we picked Kuldeep Yadav for Lords.
For Lords.
It was baffling. I mean, it's just bad selection. So it's just plain bad selection. So you need to sort of, you know, I think Michael Vaughan commented that, you know, they picked
I think they returned the favor. They returned the favor by picking 4 seamers like we did at Lords. Mahesh, you have a fan. Thank you very much. Yes, he's always spot on. All right. Guys, looking forward to the 4th test match. Bhash, are you going there again? Will you be?
Yes, I will be going on Thursday. Friday, I have some work. Unfortunately, this is a day match. So, you know, so I would be going on the first day. Hopefully, the law of average change, because Kohli has invariably, you know, we win one toss and lose one toss. So,
but you know one thing, but you will be able to see the entire day. The match can't get over in one day.
So
I think he was one of the lucky ones to, I mean, we commented also on Facebook and Twitter that, you know, one of the lucky ones to see Rohit Sharma bat twice in a day. So,
you know, to see Rohit Sharma with the back foot punch of Anderson for the first shot of the day and then a 6. So it was, you know, it was a great day to watch. I mean, he's as good. And, you know, the thing about Rohit Sharma is, you know, he looks extremely attractive on TV. But when you see him live, you realize why people rate him so highly. He evokes that feeling of the way he just bats, and when you see the other batsmen struggling, he just makes it look ridiculously easy. When you see him bat live, you realize why he's so good at his craft.
And I think that's one major difference of watching on television versus watching on the ground, right? I mean, because, you know, on television, everything looks so slow, right? It's like the bowler is delivering, the batsman is playing, you know, everything looks like, okay, everything is in motion. But when you're at the ground, you know, the speed at which the ball comes at the batsman, it's, you know, incredibly fast. Especially, you know, I remember seeing a match at Dharamshala, the 2017 test between, you know, India and Australia. And Umesh Yadav was bowling at that time. Trust me, I could not see the ball. You know, it was so quick. And I was like thinking, how will the batsman, you know, literally see the ball at that pace? And that requires so much of skill. And I think, to your point, that's what Rohit Sharma brings to the table, right? He makes it look so easy because he has so much time to play that short, right?
I think Umesh, I mean, the fact that Bumrah is now, for personal reasons, is ruled out of the fourth. I think Umesh has been our best pace bowler in
In
India
India,
in the last 3 years. I think, nobody has consistently bowled as well, at least at home, as Umesh has. And I think I think it could be a blessing in disguise that he plays. I mean, of course, there's Siraj, who has done brilliantly in Australia, but Umesh.
Yeah, I think he deserves a go for sure. And Yogi, go ahead.
I just have to drop off now, so I shall catch up with you guys next week.
All right, thank you very much.
Bye.
We were also making a last point. All right, we know you're outside. No problem. Go
Cheers.
ahead.
Bye.
Yep. So, what I was saying is, Mahesh and Bash, I think that from the last test match, I have just a couple of expectations. Definitely not have it for 2 days for sure. That is number one. And, let it be a 4 or 5 day test match at least. And second is, I really want to see the two big guns fire from both sides. I really want to see a Ben Stokes special. I really want to see a Virat Kohli special. And that's something which before the series was talked about a lot. And, although Kohli has contributed in a way or two, but then again, we know him for his daddy 100. We know him for his consistency, right? I think that's something which has been eluding him for a while. Probably, Mahesh, I think that's something which, as a fan, we would want to see there.
Oh, really? Without a doubt. I mean, Virat was looking good till he played that cheeky looking shot and he got out. Like what Bhatt said was the end of the day's play. Had he survived that, I think the match would have gone to the third day, because then India would have batted a significant part of the second day, and that would have taken the game to the third day. But having said that, he's not had a great run in Test cricket, Virat Kohli. I mean, he hasn't scored a century for quite some time, and that's something we always believe that Virat Kohli scores a lot of centuries. So that he's not been in prime form, but he's a super player, isn't he? He'll come back.
Yeah, I mean,
strongly.
Taking nothing away from that 70 he scored in Chennai, that was a brilliant knock, no doubt about it. It's just that, the consistency, like you said, is missing, right, somewhere.
Yeah, but we normally associate Virat with hundreds. We don't associate him with 60s, 70s. That's something that we give the lesser mortals, as they call it. But with Virat, you want him to score centuries because he looks to be a player. And he is a very good player. Like, there are two players in the Indian team that looks a class apart. One, like what Bash said, lazy elegance of Rohit Sharma. And if you look at the stroke play of Virat Kohli, they're two classy batsmen. And they could have walked into any team, any Indian team from the 70s onwards. I mean, they're so good players. This, considering that when the Fab Four was around, I would still put my head out and say that both of them, Virat Kohli as well as Rohit Sharma, would have found a place in the team. They're two brilliant players, aren't they?
I completely agree.
I also think Gill, he's now reached a stage where he looks very good. He looks unruffled, and he plays this. He plays one shot which, like the Rohit of old, which just frustrates. Like the dismissal of the first inning, there was no need to hit a pull shot.
Correct.
Pace bowler. I think Gill is too good a player not to have a Test match 100 soon. Hopefully, when Gill started his under-9, when we won the under-19 World Cup, Gill was projected to be the next Kohli. It would be great to see a Gill and Kohli partnership for a change. They're two they're also very, very attractive to watch when in football.
Absolutely. I think probably what I felt was he likes pace on the ball. The way he played in Australia. Off the back foot, and I think that was something which was phenomenal, right? So. Yeah, I think we definitely have.
One last point, one thing we've not spoken about is Rishabh Pant's keeping. The improvement that he has shown on a tough
Absolutely,
track.
yes.
Good point.
And also very interestingly, Pant is box office. I had a friend, so I had an extra ticket for the match. He's one of those. He's not a connoisseur of cricket to see, but he called me and said, "I want to come purely to watch Rishabh Pant bat." So, and just when he came, he was a little late, and unfortunately, Pant failed. So his box office, the gasp that a lot of people had a lot of expectation, the roar that he, you need these kind of characters in the game. So I really hope Pant, performs, and he keeps his consistency. He's now picked for the T20 World Cup. He can be a great asset in all formats. So
I completely agree. That was a really good point. Yeah, I think we missed out on talking about that for sure. But I think the way he kept wickets. Definitely, is improved like anything from the first Test match, right? Yeah, Chennai.
He's faced a lot of trolling on social media for a 23-year-old to come back like this. Extremely creditable. just very proud to see him.
You know, we didn't talk about Pant. That means he's done pretty well, because that's what happens with wicket keepers. When you don't talk about them, that means they've done well.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Wicket keepers and umpires, we always speak about that, right?
Poor guys.
You know.
what I only missed at the stadium was Pant's chatter behind the wicket, which is very, very entertaining. And
Probably,
watching it,
probably an idea for BCCI from a fan engagement perspective. You know, have an earpiece for all people in the crowd. You know, with the stump microphone on. So I think that would be interesting to hear what's going on in the middle.
One very interesting point, you know, when you book tickets online for the Motera Stadium, there is a provision for differently abled people to book the tickets. So there were wheelchairs available. There's a special stand there. So I hope, you know, others.
That's
other
a very good
stadiums, and, you
point.
know, when
Yes.
we book, there's a separate when you book
Correct.
on online Book My Show. You know, if you need wheelchair assistance, it is. So I think that's where I think a lot of other stadiums in India, we can think about, you know, differently abled people enjoying the game. I mean, that's
Absolutely. That's a fair point for sure. Yes. I think that's something which has been lacking. I agree, for a long, long time. And I think it's brilliant that they thought
Very
about
good
this,
gesture.
did a holistic gesture. Yeah, absolutely.
I did
All
see
right.
a few people on while going to the stadium. So that was a great sight.
Amazing. Thank you, Bash, for joining us today. Loved your insights, and, you know, really happy that you went to the stadium, and, you know, I'm sure you'll be having a great test match again next week.
Yes.
And hopefully we all enjoy it for a longer duration and not 2
Absolutely.
days. So why don't you go and give some tips to England on batting against spin, man?
बायो बबल नहीं होता मैं पहुंच जाता.
All right. Thanks, guys. So, yep, we'll catch up next week, and with a bang at the Motera, the Narendra Modi Stadium, for test match number 4. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.